Y Radio Podcasts. Y Radio Podcasts are produced by students from Waiheke High School Media Studies. For more information on our show, check us out at www.waihekeradio.org.nz/yradio. You are listening to Y Radio here on Waiheke Radio, a show produced by students from Level 3 Media Studies at Waiheke High School.
Are we the last generation of...
You are. You're
we
the
are.
last.
I just realised that.
You're the last Y Radio.
We're the last Y Radio people.
I know. We have done Y Radio for quite a few years, actually. I mean, it must be like the sort of 7th or 6th year. I don't know. Maybe 7 years.
Now it's no more.
Now it is no more.
Wow.
So yeah, that is because
you're leaving, mister. It's all your fault.
Yeah,
it's
I'm leaving.
because Brent
teaching.
Simpson is retiring, I hear.
He's not retiring.
Did you hear
man. He's
that?
not old enough to retire.
He's crypto broing.
Sit around all day doing nothing.
Definitely gonna crypto bro it out to the final end days.
Yeah, plug Slurfcoin.
You guys are gonna be eating your words when I'm like loaded.
You'll be like,
I'll see you on the news for fraud.
What?
for not paying your taxes.
It's going to be me. I'm going to be the brains, and William's going to be the meme.
Oh.
It's a William coin.
William coin.
We're going to try
The
like...
Will. What can we call the Will coin? We could call it
Willy coin.
Loud coin.
Loud Will.
Loud coin.
Loud.
A whole community
this?
based around William and speaking.
He's hating on William.
We're not really hating on him. We love William. He's great on the radio, but we do have to get a special controller for his voice. Anyway, so Y Radio? We can't even remember the what we call this segment.
Power shift.
No, it's not Power Shift.
It's Power Edge. It's Power Edge.
No, it's
Oh, God. No, this one's actually called Culture on the Spectrum. We're going to talk about like some of the some more of the films that we've been studying in class. We've been studying a couple of films. We already did a little bit on Sleeping Dogs, so we might leave that
I
one.
watched that today.
Did you?
Yeah.
What, in class or something?
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, I watched it for a second time. And
Yeah.
It was pretty... It's pretty strange.
It's pretty
Can
mid,
we get a plot
Yeah.
synopsis, please?
Yeah, well...
I wouldn't call it mid. I think it's beyond that. It's kind of like a so bad it's good is what I've heard.
No, what? Sleeping Dogs?
Yeah. Do you think it's boring?
It's
No, I don't think-
entertaining.
It's entertaining.
It's just
it's not
the
mid.
it's a weird. It's really slow and then it's really really fast.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about in that class. Like our theory in class is that it starts off trying to be something like political thriller,
Yeah.
to make some big comment about like fascism, and then it just turns into like a buddy movie where there's like helicopters and tech helicopters and stuff.
Well, because it goes from him leaving the family because he got cheated on, and then that guy kind of just like, and then he gets arrested and gets set up by the group of people, and then from that point it kind of takes a turn of he's like on the run, but like everyone kind of knows where he is anyway, and then he gets like
kind of pulled into the
war that he doesn't
want
care
to be
about
because he wants to live on the island, man, and like grow kumaras and catch kahawai.
And then he gets stuck with the dude who banged his wife, and then they become best friends.
So our theory is that it wants to be something kind of intelligent and a political commentary, but then it also wants to make money in Hollywood. It's because it's one of the first New Zealand... So its status in New Zealand is that it's the first New Zealand film that kind of makes it overseas.
Oh,
Is
really?
it?
And so what it does is it kind of models itself on Hollywood blockbusters.
Yeah. Is that why there's attack helicopters?
Yeah.
Terrible American accents?
Yeah.
Are there?
And wooden guns?
Yes, there are wooden
What?
guns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
you weren't. Yeah,
I've
so they
watched
were
this.
kind of broke. So they didn't have any guns in New Zealand, so they made them out of wood.
For the movie.
And if you look really closely, you can kind of tell in a few places.
Yeah, I noticed that when I watched it today.
Well, you noticed the wooden gun.
Yeah.
What, is the paint like chipping off or something?
No, it just like
Just
looks
sort of tell.
grainy.
Yeah, it looks a bit grainy.
Yeah.
That movie is currently playing on TVNZ on demand, so it's sort of free to air.
Yeah, that's when I watched it.
There's another movie on TVNZ that's free that I would watch called Smash Palace. It's another about the same time frame, I think. It might even be Donaldson. I don't know. Anyway, another movie that we watched in class from around the time that a lot of like listeners will have either heard of or seen is Jeff Murphy, who's sort of famous for Goodbye Pork Pie. He made this film called Utu. and we have been watching that, and
Patu, yeah.
that's a doozy, man. I think it's one of my favorite New Zealand films.
I like it. I like the
Did you see U2?
I saw the first half of it. I think.
Oh yeah.
I saw, and then I went away. But
Taylor, you're kind of quiet on the U2.
Yeah, it's what people are calling.
Right,
like
you're not. I can't hear you, bro.
Oh, what?
There you go. Speak
Yeah,
into the
talking
mic.
on the mic.
It's what people are calling like a poo-ha western.
Oh yeah.
What's the?
What's puha mean?
Yeah.
Puha is that as watercress.
It's watercress,
which
yeah.
ends up in that sort of Maori dish called pork bones and puha.
Mm.
But it is a little bit. Yeah, it does have some of the Western stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think what I liked about Utu, and it kind of applies to what you said about Sleeping Dogs, is it was trying to be a sort of action movie, but Utu just does that so much better because you see all those conventions of like guns and explosions and fight scenes and people dying, but it's still done like tastefully, and it's not. So you still have like plot relevance and New Zealand influence, but you again appeal to those audiences, and I find that really cool.
it didn't completely sell out to
No,
Hollywood,
it didn't actually.
to American audiences.
Apparently, it did have an opening in New York, and it was quite well received. Americans did enjoy it. I think they liked kind of, they wouldn't have really been exposed to like Maori stuff, and it had like. Oh, you know who really likes Utu is Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, I imagined he would.
And it's kind of that
I see
ultra,
that.
because it does have some ultra violence in it. That scene where he cuts the priest's head off. I mean, that scene's just off the chain for New Zealand at the time.
Yeah,
I like that. I remember that scene quite well.
It's quite memorable.
Yeah.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Apparently Jeff Murphy, he later on goes back, because a lot of times people have seen that one called Utu Redux, and he redoes all the sound. But I think my favorite part in it is that character of Williamson.
I love Williamson so much.
Williamson, that is played by, oh God, what's his name? I can't remember. I'll have to look it up while you guys are talking.
Williams?
He's the one with the crazy...
like quad barrel shotgun.
Yeah. Oh, Bruno Lawrence is the name of the actor. Bruno Lawrence, yeah.
But so his house gets invaded by the de facto main character, Tefeke. And his wife is killed in the invasion. And so he kind of has this whole arc of going back and trying to kill Tefeke, going home, upgrading his weapon and his kit, and then trying again. And it ends with his, like... It's like a musket, basically, but it ends up looking like
quad barrel.
It's a shotgun. It's a shotgun, but it's got 4 barrels.
Yeah, so it ends up having 4 barrels that he can fire them all at once using a piano pedal. I think it was.
Yeah. So when they do, there's a scene where the Maori push the piano out of the window, and then he ends up using this. I think Kira likes it because, like, he's like a New Zealand product designer.
Is he?
He's one of the first New Zealand product designers.
He iterates over this weapon that he makes. First of all, he makes the shells that he can like auto load it.
Yeah. He gets user feedback and then he iterates on his design. Yeah, I like that. I really like that.
You should do it. Does he have a portfolio?
I wonder. He would have an amazing body of work.
Incredible portfolio. He would have to pass.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, it is. I think it's kind of a movie that can last. And it's sort of in a way like Murphy's. Like people still will watch even Goodbye Pork Pie, which is another Jeff Murphy film. And they've even remade Goodbye Pork Pie. So Murphy seemed to have like tapped into some kind of Kiwi, and they were good enough filmmakers. And I think what's kind of interesting is that those guys, they didn't really know what they were doing. They're kind of making it up as they go along. And so, in that sense, they pull off some stunts and some things like that, and some special effects that you're just like, how did they do that? And it's kind of like that Kiwi ingenuity thing. Like if you watch Goodbye Pork Pie, there's a scene where they drive the Mini onto a moving train. Yeah. And they actually pull this off in real life. You're thinking to myself, what if that goes wrong?
Mm-mm. I know, it's cool looking back on older movies with practical effects. I think even nowadays with how good CGI is, it like the lines blur a little. And even like, when Tom Cruise is jumping out of a plane onto a motorbike off a cliff again, you're like, well, he's done that like 8 other times. But watching it in an old movie like that, and it's like, well, that was like the 80s or the 70s doing that stuff. It's really impressive.
And you figure like, the health and safety is probably way...
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I was thinking that you wouldn't be able to even think about doing that today. because you'll just get shut down by health and safety.
Yeah, and they were on slim budgets, these people, you know. There wasn't heaps of money. So that's why, I mean, the wooden guns is kind of like a, you know, it's like, oh, well, we got to do something, so let's make a film, you know. Or let's make a wooden guns. Let's bust out a bunch of them. Apparently Murphy was really good at that. That was one of his things, of like kind of coming up with explosions and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, Utu, I think, is still relevant today, and it's interesting. The ending's really great, and some of the fight scenes are good, and it's just a good kind of story about sort of New Zealand history, but sort of not, you know. I mean, it's not. Yeah,
it's kind of like a big blanket term, and it's not really. I know you said it's not historically accurate, but you kind of just get a feel for what it would have been like, and that's really interesting.
So the only other one that we watched, which is kind of completely off of the track of these two, was we watched this movie by Merita Mita, who's a documentary filmmaker primarily, although she did make a couple of feature fiction films, one or two. But we watched this film called Patu, which is a kind of a, I don't even know if you'd call it a documentary, but it's about the South African rugby tour in New Zealand in 1980.
I read about that movie.
4 or something.
You read about it?
I thought it was like 1983, 4 or something.
You read on that document with the slideshow and stuff.
And that is, I really like that film. I don't know. I've watched it a couple of times now.
I think it's really cool because, again, with like how I said of Utu, where you get a feel for what it's like, it's just, the whole thing is basically just her experience of it.
Yeah.
And so then you get, like, of course it might be like edited to see like a certain perspective, but there's a scene where they're on like Queen Street and they have this big petition to stop the Springbok tour from coming. And then you just have these like 5 or 3 even like racist dudes just come over going like, you know, I don't want like the blah, blah, blah. And they're like,
sport and politics should mix.
And it's funny because you can go, those are real people, and this is like a real experience someone has had.
It's quite amazing to think that New Zealand was that kind of fragmented and sort of, I mean, it starts off quite non-violent, but by the end of it, it's like super violent. Like police are like bashing people with batons, and
people are throwing 2x4s at people.
It kind of gets real violent at the end. And you never see her. You never see the filmmaker.
You don't. You do hear her.
You hear her a
for
couple
like
of times.
one scene where like a police officer starts hitting her. Yeah,
and she does a little bit of narration, but not much. What did you think of it, Taylor?
I thought it was really, it wasn't like your conventional documentary. It was really interesting to see. And like, I had never heard about this event before, like
the Springboks.
Yeah. I'm surprised because like, it was really, like, got really violent down the end. So like, would have thought I'd heard about that, but no.
And it was under like 40 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. And now we don't even think the Springboks come to here, and you're like, oh yeah. But it was a big deal. I mean, it almost like kind of tore the party. I mean, the country, like, you know, I think they were, at that point, you know, everyone had an opinion. You were either for it or against it, and it just kind of like, some families would probably. It's a little bit like sort of COVID. You know, like families might have been ripped apart by COVID because people are like, no, it's a hoax, and no, it's not. And I think the Springbok thing was a bit like that. You were either for it or you were against it.
Yeah.
And you were passionate about it either way.
I mean, what was different with COVID was like not believing in it kind of meant that you couldn't be included in their bubble.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're not going to get the vaccination? Well, we can't really trust you to not be sick, so.
But the film is, you know, so I think it's 84. But actually, Taylor and I were talking about, didn't we? There's a film out at the moment.
Right, with Julian Dennison. It's
up something.
Uproar. Yeah, that came out like I think last year.
Oh really?
Yeah,
I saw that on the plane, and I was going to watch it, but I didn't.
I was going to watch it on the plane too, but I then watched it recently. It's on like Neon or something, and that's about the tour.
Yeah,
and it kind of follows this kid who does end up sort of joining in on the tour things. So it's a good film. Did you like it?
I haven't seen it. I just looked into it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a watch, that one. I think it's called Uproar. It's got Julian Dennison in it, and it's kind of about the same. It's about the tour, and they have a few like battle scenes. Anyway, we should probably wrap it up, eh? Thanks for listening to Y Radio Podcasts. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting app and check us out online at www.waihekeradio.org.nz/yradio.